Welcome, Ali, to Protein Production Technology International. It's lovely to have you with us. Now, if our listeners weren't aware, PFx Biotech is a Portuguese biotech company founded in 2022 by Ali Osman, who is the current CEO. The company focuses on developing specialty proteins using precision fermentation. And we're especially pleased to catch up with Ali, as in the past few days, Ali's leadership of PFx Biotech was acknowledged in the 2024 Business Worldwide Magazine CEO Awards. So he must be very pleased about that. Firstly, Ali, before we get into the details of your company, can you just give us a brief rundown of how you ended up in this field and how you subsequently came to set up PFx Biotech? I mean, what was your inspiration?
Pleasure meeting you here and pleasure being, of course, with you in this interview. Well, to answer your question, what brought me to the field? So typically, I'm actually educated as a food scientist. So I'm actually in the field from my early years in the university. The moment I was exposed to precision fermentation was during my PhD in the University of Reading in the UK, where we used precision fermentation to manufacture enzymes that are today actually launched already in the market in the UK and are used to produce prebiotic galacto-oligosaccharides, which is also a product that is, in the UK market since more than a decade. So that was actually my first, exposure to precision fermentation. Now, after that, I joined Arla Foods, followed by DSM, followed by Novozymes, and precision fermentation was at the heart of development of new enzymes and new protein solutions. So actually, I was brought to that through education and then also my, of course, career. Now, what was the driver for me to stop that corporate career and move into the startup space? Typically was two major things. Definitely the alarming link between greenhouse gas emission, climate change, and its link to animal-based protein production. That was definitely, this is a big mega trend, shaping our food system right now. But the other personal link was my youngest son, who was diagnosed with allergy to proteins found in cow milk. So that was actually the moment where I thought, well, actually, I need to capitalize on my previous knowledge, both academically and industrially, and do something that can have a positive impact, not just on the environment, but also on millions of babies and children that suffer from this allergy.
So a very personal motivation for you there. So how do you envision your human milk proteins impacting infant nutrition beyond just addressing cow's milk protein allergies?
Well, definitely. I think you're exactly to the point. I mean, cow milk protein allergy for us, for PFx, is a great niche market within the baby nutrition or infant formula. But if you look actually historically at infant formula, you could say 50, 60 years ago, infant formula was basically protein powder. So it's really protein powder based on exactly cow proteins or cow milk powder. And if you look at the proteins within cow milk, 80% is casein, 20% is whey proteins. Now, that composition doesn't exist in human milk. In human milk is the opposite. It's actually 60% whey protein, 40% only casein. And the composition between those individual proteins is very much different than cow milk. So what happened was actually that old formulation is somehow responsible for developing obesity at later stages in life for babies who are fed completely milk powder. And the reason for that is because nature has decided that when milk proteins is 80% casein, 20% whey protein, it has a certain impact on the growth rate of calves. But that growth rate of calves should not be the same as a human, because we don't grow at the same rate as calves. So actually, that was one of the reasons where that composition is really linked to developing obesity. Now, what happened in the infant formula industry was always a drive, a motivation, and a trend within the infant formula to humanize infant formula, to bring infant formula closer to human milk. And so first was like, infant formula manufacturer needed to add more whey proteins to really adjust the balance, and adding more alpha-lactalbumin, which is a major whey protein, to the infant, reducing casein. Then next wave came when probably in the 90s, where galacto-oligosaccharide, fructo-oligosaccharide, started to be added to infant formula in an attempt to resemble the impact of human milk oligosaccharides. Later than a decade later, I think close to the end of 2009-10, human milk oligosaccharides became commercially available. And that was really added. Now today you can find those infant formula with the human milk oligosaccharide. It's another attempt to bring infant formula even closer to human breast milk in terms of composition, but also in terms of functionality. And the fact that PFx and a few other, of course, startups in the space are embarking on a journey to produce human milk proteins and add those as the next wave of ingredients to infant formula, I think is really a huge contribution to the first goal of the infant formula industry, bringing infant formula closer to human milk.
Mm-hmm. So I'm wondering, what's the possibility of using precision fermentation to create sort of customized protein blends for various dietary needs and age groups, not just infant formula?
Oh, definitely. I think that's a very interesting question. Well, first, if you look at the properties of proteins found in human milk, you name it, alpha-lactalbumin, lactoferrin, osteopontin, immunoglobulin, and plenty of more, of course. They have actually a lot of very interesting bioactivity and health-promoting properties, ranging from boosting immunity, contribution to developing the immune system, even the nervous system, the neurodevelopment angle of some of these proteins, impacting gut microbiota positively, fighting, or you could say preventing infections. So some of these proteins have really anti-inflammatory and anti-pathogenic properties. So plenty of actually health properties linked with proteins found in human milk. And if you actually then look at those properties, you definitely can really find applications of these proteins in market segments outside infant formula. But today, if you look today at, for example, if you take let's say lactoferrin as a protein, it's probably about 60-65% of the lactoferrin is used globally in infant formula, but the rest, about 30 to 35%, is finding applications in nutraceuticals, in elderly nutrition, and probably even in women health during pregnancy, after pregnancy, etc. So definitely there is really, I think, a big market opportunity also outside infant formula. It just needs time to develop more and mature more and really accommodate all of these, I think, advancement like what we are doing at PFx or even others are doing.
Mm-hmm. And does your platform itself has the potential to produce other types of specialty proteins beyond human milk? And if so, what are the technical challenges for expanding that range?
No, definitely. I think that's also a very valid question. So definitely, it's a platform technology where we have our own proprietary strain engineering pathways that we've done, and we've actually developing our first chassis strain is almost developed, and then the starting point for us was definitely human milk proteins due to the reasons mentioned before. But the technology, the platform, can be used also for other specialty proteins and even other specialty, you could say, protein-based molecule or even non-protein based molecules. But that's really coming not at this specific stage, comes really at the next stage. I mean, now we're focused on using the platform technology that we developed to produce and scale up human milk protein ingredients.
How does your approach address those familiar challenges like scalability, maintaining protein functionality, and also cost effectiveness?
I guess these are really the most important questions that we and others, of course, face in the real market. I mean, the real market do appreciate that those solutions are premium in terms of their contribution to less carbon emission. They are very sustainable. They are environmentally friendly. But at the end of the day, of course, you want to turn this into profitable business and scalable business. You need to be active in the market. And active in the market means, of course, you could say price parity. It's a very important headlines for any type of industry. And even if you start selling at a little bit premium in the first years, at the end, the market will neutralize and will ask you for price parity. So we have actually put that one as one of our first goals when we started PFx Biotech, saying that when we want to scale up a protein, we have to already tick the box of price parity with the market. And we've been doing that, and we've succeeded in that already for our first protein. So I can tell you that our first protein, if today is produced at an industrial scale, we could make profit. Considering the price parity in the market, I think it's important for precision fermentation companies to think about the price if they want their products and technologies to be, of course, profitable and scalable in the market. No challenges with the scale up. You mentioned, I think, typically you need really to take different boxes. Strain robustness. You may have a successful strain on a small scale, but the moment you scale up, you may see challenges. We of course keep looking at all of these criteria one by one at any scale up stage. So strain robustness, protein functionality, protein of course characterization and properties, and then also the application of proteins and how these proteins will be applied in the end product. So we really look into all of these aspects when we move from the lab to the scale up.
Mm-hmm. And how do you see your technology fitting into the broader landscape of the future food system?
I think that's probably that's the sort of mega trend I mentioned in the beginning. So the global food system, I think, is under pressure. The question is, should we continue relying intensively on animal-based proteins and animal-based food, basically? If we will continue doing that, then we're actually contributing to harming our planet a lot, and then we probably are not leaving good future for the generations to come. So definitely there should be a change in the food system, and I think this is what we're witnessing right now. What we're witnessing right now is all these, you could say, interesting plant-based, precision fermentation-based, microbial-based food that are developing and want to make a change in the world. And I think this is needed really on a global scale to at least manage the risk of greenhouse gas emission and the risk of climate change. So I guess it's inevitable for mankind to really double down on sustainable production systems within the food and agriculture. And PFx plays, of course, we play a minor role there because we cannot do this alone. We do this, and there are plenty of other startups are doing this. But again, at the end of the day, I think if you want to do that change in the world, even startups alone, they cannot do it. It has to really work in the right ecosystem through collaboration with large corporations, through collaboration with, of course, governmental bodies, having even the right policies, the right regulatory approvals in place. I think at the end is our own responsibility as a society, no matter if you are a startup or a corporate or whatever. I think each party has to play its own roles. I mean, for startups, they really are the guys who are agile, speedy to bring new technologies, test it, scale it up. Mass adoption of these will happen through collaboration. And of course, governments and policymakers need to, of course, also play their role there and make these feasible.
Mm-hmm. Well, you answered my next question there was what collaborations or partnerships do you envision to maximize the impact of your technology? So I guess you kind of touched on it there.
More or less, yeah.
Yeah. Now, food tech startups can be capital intensive. What funding challenges have you faced, and how are you securing the resources needed to grow your business?
Oh, definitely. I think probably we have started at a time where funding environment or investment environment was not at its peak. We started 2022, but we were very careful in how we spend the resources. And I must say proudly that one of our protein was developed and the strain was engineered, and it moved to scale up with less than 500K. And I think if you, honestly, if you actually benchmark that with other startups, that could be really, I think it's an amazing achievement we should be proud of. And why we do, or how we do that, what's the secret sauce? Well, typically really being very analytical on what steps we need to commit to. And in terms of strain engineering, what engineering steps we should do and why we should do that. So more or less really having, you could say, the right minds in-house to do a very thorough analysis and then those steps in the strain development and scale up that matter, that can give an impact. And I think we've succeeded in our first protein perfectly. As I said, we pushed the titers to commercial viability. titers, and we're scaling up, and all of that with less than 500K. So I think for the food tech and startup, it's true that especially technologies like precision fermentation, maybe even cultured meat and things like that, are very capital intensive. But I think there's always a way to create to achieve the right milestone with the minimum possible funding. Our funding comes, of course, from private investment. So basically, the founders have decided to privately invest in the beginning, followed by safe and convertible notes from known accelerator programs like Big Idea Ventures, like Biotop by VIP. And I think we're doing well, and now we've already achieved really, I think, great milestones, especially in the scale up in achieving commercial viability of the first protein. And as I said again, with really minimum budget, which is, I think, now are big assets that we can capitalize on for the next funding round.
Mm-hmm. What advice would you have for other startups in the sector when it comes to sort of securing those funds?
Well, I guess being very I would say clear from the beginning, from the planning phase. I think what matters in the funding is basically what milestones have you achieved. The vision, the storytelling are very important. The concept is quite important. Maybe it used to actually be enough to raise funding 5-6 years ago, but I don't think it's enough anymore. If you just have a compelling story and a vision and a product that to really go and knock on the door of investors, whoever are these. So definitely my advice would be plan correctly from day number one. And in the planning, always see the milestones. You have to achieve certain milestones that are impactful to convince investors to come on board.
Mm-hmm. Now, the food tech sector is rapidly growing, lots of players. I mean, how do you differentiate PFx Biotech from other companies developing these sources? I know your particular protein, human milk proteins, there's probably quite niche within the overall market. But how would you differentiate yourself, and what competitive advantages do you see for your technology and products?
Well, definitely, I think first of all, I must say that actually we're quite pleased to have a number of competitors also in the space, because that shows that the market, that there is a market there. It shows that this is a need in the market. It shows interest from larger players also in the sector. So that's actually a very positive thing to have, of course, a number of competitors who also share with us the same sort of vision in terms of less reliance on animal-based food, which is better, of course, for the planet. So what set us apart are a number of things. Of course, we have exclusively licensed an IP from a university, which is one of our assets in reaching commercial viability for our proteins. So that's one thing which we believe, even on the medium and longer term, will mean more sustainable and profitable business for us. The second advantage is typically what we do with the protein. So after producing the protein, what we do with it. I cannot, of course, disclose more because that's really a subject of an IP right now, which is not published yet. So, of course, there are certain technological, I think, assets that we work on. Now, besides that, I think later technology and know-how is very important, especially in the development phase. But I think later when products start to hit the market and there will be a lot of differentiation also on the commercial strategy, the go-to-market, the sales channels that you will actually execute within your commercial strategy.
Now, I'm sure you can't reveal this, but in terms of commercializing that product, are you in discussions with potential players, bigger players in the sector to bring your particular ingredient to their nutrition products?
Absolutely. We're really in discussion with a number of players. Of course, I cannot disclose that right now, but definitely, as I said in the beginning, we won't do things alone. I think that takes longer time. It could be like a suicide. So we will do that in an open innovation framework.
Mm-hmm. Now, as you look around the world of alternative proteins, from sort of plant-based to cell-cultivated, what particularly excites you, other than obviously the technology you're working on?
I guess plant-based is exciting because it has shorter route to the market, and I think, of course, we do see the challenges that they've gone through recently when it comes to providing the plant-based to the mass population rather than just the vegan and vegetarian. And the challenges were, of course, texture, taste, flavor, etc. So those are actually, that's really exciting for us because it's lessons for other sectors like precision fermentation, like us, to know and prepare for. What's really exciting could be the cultivated meat. That's from a technological advancement. I really like that. I still have maybe questions about scalability of that, how scalable that will be to enable production of hundreds of tons of meat or whole cuts if we want to make an impact within the meat sector. So I'm quite following on that. You could say regularly to see if there are any really breakthrough technological advancement that will change that. Otherwise, I think still for the cultivated meat, it will still stay niche for a long time, unless we're doing a major breakthrough, which decrease cost, but at the same time enables mass production.
Mm-hmm. Well, Ali, thank you very much for joining us. I know that you have to shoot off. We managed to squeeze it all in there to the time frame, so we can only wish you all the luck in the world with your venture, and hope to see you again soon.
Thank you, Nick. Thank you so much for hosting me with you. Looking forward for more in-person connection in Amsterdam.